Springs do the heavy lifting of your garage door, and when they fail, it can be dangerous. Welcome to the Garage Authority Podcast. I'm your host, Jonithan Phillips, and today I'm so excited. Two reasons. One, it's graduation day for our students. That's right, 50 new technicians, maintenance techs, and installers are going to respective markets all over the country. And second of all, and probably the most important, I have really prided myself on finding out why. And that is what has excelled me in my garage door career. Is it wasn't enough that I could just install it well. I wanted to know why, down to an engineering spec, does it have to be done this exact way? Now, with that, you seek out people in the industry that have the answers for you. And there's about 5 people in my life that have, as far as my garage door career, come with those answers. And today we have one of those 5 right now. So without further ado, the one and only legendary Scott Cola. How you doing, brother?
Great to be here, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's awesome.
Dude, not to jab at you, but I'm considered a young buck in the garage door industry. I was born in 1993, and I think that's an important year for you too.
Oh, wow. It doesn't really come into play how long ago that was until you see you sitting in front of me, and I realize, yeah, that was the day I went pro, man. It's
Yeah.
the day I went professional.
That's, I was just trying to figure out how to see and do normal bodily functions, and you were winding springs. It's crazy to me that I get to work with people like you, because there's a part of me that's always wanting to catch up.
Sure.
But with how much the garage door industry's changed and how much you've seen and how much that I'm never going to get a chance to put my hands on it. You're just one of those things that I'm chasing that I won't be able to catch up with.
Yeah, I mean, to reflect on, how long ago that really was, you don't realize it until you start speaking to people who have just brand new, or maybe they've been doing it 10 years, and you're like, wow, I remember my 10-year.
Yeah.
I remember my 10-year mark. Going into my 34th year now, still learning.
Yes.
Everything new, different days is where you see some new stuff. That's when it makes it fun because, here's 2 garage door guys talking about garage door stuff, but when you see the cool new stuff, that's what's really awesome.
Yeah. There's a type of pacing and a type of endurance for someone to do this as long as you have. Yeah. What do you think the secret sauce is? Because with how much you've done, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to look back on your entire career and how much you're still growing. How do you keep that endurance to keep learning?
It's getting harder every year, I will admit. It's getting harder every year. I think like when you're younger, you don't realize that you're having to work that hard to learn all the cool stuff that makes the job just a little bit easier. Or maybe so we're not struggling, and obviously within training you see that a lot, where you see guys and they're struggling, and you want to let them struggle just enough to get it. But I think in the early years, really, really learning, being a student of the game, and just really focusing on, am I going to be doing this 20 years from now, and how does that look when I do that? I can tell you I didn't really look at it the first few years that way. With my father doing this, he started in the 60s in Ohio, and I started working with him in 87, 88,
right.
And then really hitting professional in 93. I think you just got to really pace yourself and stay healthy. Don't really hurt yourself. Ask for advice when you're unsure.
Right. I think that point, because I see how many technicians that you've trained and how much you've seen, but you're still running and gunning, meeting new people every day and homeowners with, whether that's the technology that's advanced since the 80s, all the way to just different societal changes. And you've had to adapt in communication. So that's why I wanted to bring you on today, because this is we want to inform people, whether that's don't touch this because it's dangerous, all the way to, hey, let's give you power. You can definitely do this. So that's why I wanted to bring you on and ask questions, bare bones basic on a garage door. How do springs work balancing the weight of a garage door for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, you would think like with the industry we were in, we take it for granted but we know that.
Yeah.
But so many people don't understand that is an overhead door. It's hanging up there. It has to go from up there down there. And when that happens, those are what the springs do, right? So those are what allow the door to actually go down in a normal, timely manner, and not just be a huge guillotine that's going to come down and hurt someone. So springs, super, super important on overhead doors. Very important.
Now, a lot of confusion that I've experienced in my career is I go to jobs and they say there's something wrong with the operator. And that breakdown in communication of getting the focus towards the broken spring or the fatigue spring. Right. Now, hopefully we didn't do too much damage to the operator if we had a misused spring in whatever facet that you choose. But that's the biggest thing that I see is people don't understand. The springs are the muscle of the door. It's not that motor. That motor's just a guide.
Correct.
The motor's just a guide. It just tells it when to go.
Yeah.
That's all it does.
It does it so you and I don't have to.
Yes.
But back in the day, when it was, hey, go open the door, kid, and you're like, God, it's getting heavy, Dad. It's getting heavy. We had to do that back then. The openers from many, many moons ago would open doors that were unsafe.
Right.
And consumers don't know the danger that lies above them. Openers of today, thank God we're getting that technology catching up now, where safety is almost paramount. It's number one.
Right. Whenever it comes to springs specifically, across the nation, there's different applications with doors. I mean, you've worked on counterweight doors to where it's just weight on pulleys and cables that lift it up. But more specifically, most homeowners today, if they have a spring, it's going to be torsion or extension. Can you explain those two?
Yeah, great question. So torsion works on an actual tube where hopefully there's two springs on that tube, and then there's cables that work on a pulley system. So as that door drops, it's working together to allow that door to go down evenly. With an extension spring, otherwise known as stretch springs, some people use different terminology there. Those are the springs that go along the side, and they have some cables and they
down
have some
the rails
pulleys.
on the side.
They do go down the side rail. Now, when that door is all the way down to the ground, rather than the torsion springs be right up at the top, those extension springs are going to be running parallel with those horizontal track, and without a containment cable, I've seen actually those springs when they break, shoot through the front of the house and knock a brick out. If it's a brick home, that's how much force is behind that. With the torsion spring, it's a little bit more contained up there, and with an extension spring, the door can go down crooked, kind of crab walk on the way down, which, if you don't know why it's doing it, it could be hella scary.
Right. Would you say I might be biased, right? I'm from the Midwest, and in the Midwest, there's a lot of split-level homes, so there's not a lot of headroom. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about off camera, headroom is the space above the top of the door, and sometimes there's not room for a torsion system, so they'll opt for extension springs that can go down the side, down the rails. Now, I am of the school of thought that whether it's mounting springs in a different area, like a rear-mounted system to where they're at the back of the track, you should always go torsion when you can, no matter what, for that exact safety reason of extension can be crazy and it can crab walk. Can you think of any reasons, honestly, that people need to do extension springs anymore?
No, other than
the
headroom compliance. No, it used to be a real DIY thing to do,
right,
back in the day, because somehow they thought that was easier. But no, I can't imagine any reason why.
Yeah,
I would use that over torsion.
Right. What is the most common cause for spring failure, in your opinion?
It's just going to be normal wear and tear.
Fair.
Right? Just like tires on a car. Normal wear and tear, and potentially the type of metal that's used today versus the type of metal that was used 40 years ago. There is a difference.
I think the biggest ones that I see when it comes just focusing on torsion, you were there, especially at the time whenever galvanized was all the rage.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know what galvanized is, it's a covering, it's a processing of it, and you can tell on your springs if they look like a shiny silver, typically, and they didn't break. They didn't break. They lasted a little bit longer.
They did.
But what people weren't noticing is during that door balancing, like the spring wasn't broke, but it would weigh 40, 50, 80
True.
pounds on the ground. So
True.
really, I'm a big fan of the hot oil tempered and powder coated.
Yeah, I think that when they first came out with galvanized, it was something new, and of course, a lot of new stuff it comes with, a lot of backlash from guys who've been saying they've been doing it forever. But it was interesting to see. Hopefully, in some of the areas where y'all get a little bit more rain than what we get here, you have to worry about that. You have to worry about rusting and stuff like that. So the galvanization of that wire, I think we found, had some weird sort of effect in some cases of wearing quicker than an oil-tempered one.
Right. And then especially when it comes to talking about just normal wear and tear and the different types of springs that have come out over the years, I think the biggest one that people don't consider is pool chemicals in the garage and what that does to springs. And I ran into that finally out here because he had all of his pool equipment in the back, and we were out there a year ago, and I called you, and then that's when you explained to me that chlorine and all that stuff in the garage just tears things apart.
And funny thing is being in the industry as long as I had been, I didn't know that. I literally did not know that. I found that out through some research about looking into it, and then actually, I think I learned it from somebody else. It said, you got to watch out for those chemicals and I thought, how does that work? But it is real.
Yeah.
Like and if they're giving that off to that, I would advise no chemicals in the garage. Maybe we put those someplace else.
Yeah.
Because they have and it's not just the springs. It's even the track of the door. It's the rollers of the door.
hinges.
It's the cables.
Yeah.
Starts to deteriorate the bottom of that cable, and that's a really dangerous
That can
point.
get super nasty.
Absolutely.
Now, what are some warning signs that you would inform clients? Because you've gone to plenty of calls where it was one little thing and it turned into something catastrophic. And I don't like going to places, unless someone is calling for a new door, then okay. But to go to a house and we don't have an option. So what are like warning signs for homeowners so they don't have to end up in those positions?
I think noticing something different. We are creatures of habit. We get life patterns, and if we just take 1 second to focus on what's changed, you'll know. If you see the door doing something that it hasn't done before, and usually it's gradual. So it's one of those things where it can go from 0 to you're in a lot of trouble. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yes.
We're trying to avoid that. You'll notice a laboring opener, and if you get a newer type opener, we're hoping that notifies you and gives you a warning saying, hey, we've got some excessive force situation here. You need to call for service, and that should definitely not be ignored. It's not a fluke. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's trying to tell you that it's struggling, and you'll know.
Now, my favorite part of when you've trained me or when you come in to talk to the students is your capability on storytelling. Now, DIY springs, and I'm gonna preface this for those of you listening. You can do it for sure. There are some people that are way more mechanically inclined, forgive me. And we get some comments where guys are like, I did the springs myself, like they're not that dangerous, it's not that bad. And I'm just like, okay, like, yeah, you also have a wood shop in your garage and you've been building cabinetry and doing all this stuff. Sure. And I kind of hate the false confidence that's put out there. Because, yes, doors work a certain way, and once you get it, you got it. I can admit that. You can train almost anybody to work on a door. Right. But the DIY guy that had that accident and then you've had to go out there, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, a few of them, and they can be quite brutal.
Yes.
People really hurting themselves badly because they thought that it didn't look that bad. My advice is this. I've seen guys who are very, very good in the mechanical trade, whether it's automobiles. I have a cousin who is a certified mechanic, 40 years. He won't touch a spring. He calls me. He said, look, I understand it. I've seen you do it all my life. I know enough to stay away from it. And quite frankly, I would never touch a garage door spring if I wasn't in this business.
Right.
They're not fun to play with if you violate one of those safety rules. It can end horribly.
Yeah.
It can end horribly.
I think I can't tell you how many times I've come into a garage that looks like a crime scene.
Absolutely.
And
blood all over the place.
And
yeah.
unfortunately, just the sweetest people sometimes, just in the gnarliest casts. And I mean, some of the worser ones I've seen is we don't know where we stand at the hospital, to put it in a lighter term. And it breaks my heart to go, because, I mean, you've seen it. Professionals get hurt every day doing this.
Yeah, I mean, even doing this as long as I do it, and I follow all the rules, and complacency can sometimes come in. And like I said, it's for the trained person, it's relatively safe. But I remember going to a job once where the lady opened the door, and, I mean, she just had fear on her face. And she said, I need to get this door fixed so I can get my car out because my husband's currently at the hospital. He tried to fix this, and it didn't go well. And, you know, the garage, she tried to do her best to make it suitable for me to work. But I can tell you that it was a bad thing. And thankfully, you know, her husband was okay, but he had a couple war wounds. Because I did check in with her a few weeks or months later to ask how he was. And she was the sweetest lady in the world. And so was he. He just didn't realize that danger.
Yeah. I mean, it's enough tension to lift up 200, 300. I mean, doors that we've worked on, 800. And all that tension to lift that door is released in less than a millisecond.
It's so fast you're not going to get out of the way. No matter how quick you are, you're not getting out of the way.
Anytime that I've gotten injured from a spring, I actually didn't know what happened. It happened so quick.
I can agree. It's happened 2 or 3 times with me, and it has happened so quickly that you do have to recap and go, okay, what happened? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no time.
I think the worst one, for me personally, and it's just because we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And whenever we go to 4-spring systems, and I teach that base specifically because a 4-spring couplet system has put me in the hospital 3 times. And the craziest one, I think I was about a month or 2 into it because I didn't have training at all.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, there were some guys that like taught, but not on those systems.
No.
And I didn't know the dangers of cracked cones, which is something that a DIY person wouldn't know to look for.
No.
A cracked cone is what's going to hold that spring's tension to the tube to make the system work. And there's a cracked cone on it, and I noticed it, but I was like, okay, I need to detension it and get started on the system. And I think about 2 quarter turns down, strangest, loudest sound in the world. And then they were such big old springs that there was just like a black cloud around me from the dust.
All the dust.
And I was like, whoa. And then I kind of chuckled. I was like, well, at least it's detensioned. Like, that was a close one.
Yeah.
And I just remember having a weird feeling on my shirt. And then I go down like that, and then I wasn't wearing gloves. And then I just saw red all over my hands. And then I'm pulling down my shirt, and I'm looking, and I feel up, and then I can feel something in my neck. And I had to go to the hospital that day, and it barely missed just a chunk of that cone. And then, I don't know, man, I probably didn't handle some situations when I would go to a client's house and they're like, I'm going to do it myself after having an experience like that.
Hard to educate on that one. You got to really get down and say, listen, see that scar right there? And I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Imagine that happens. And, I think we really have to stress to them in the friendliest way possible that, look, if you want to try it, but it's, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. I don't even change the oil on my cars anymore, quite honestly, because I don't want to get under that. What if something happens? You know what? There's professionals. Yeah. I just let them do it.
Yeah.
I do it every day.
Gosh, it's making my neck feel weird thinking about that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be with you forever.
So, if we had a point to how do homeowners check their springs? How would they check them? How do they gauge on whether they should have someone out to replace them or take a look at them if you had to give advice?
I would say the best way to check that would be, first of all, do some research. Look in those owner's manuals that you have, hopefully for your door. If someone's left those for you, they're available all over. But the easiest way to do it is with the door down. Don't do it with the door up, right? This is very dangerous. When the door's down, there's that emergency pull release that's right there. That's for when the power goes out. That's for when the opener may malfunction. That is the safest time to pull that when the door's down. Then try to open the door. And if it's heavy enough that you make funny sounds, that's when you need to call us, right? Yeah, it's not. And I've had guys before when I test it, I go, "Wow, that's heavy," and sometimes the ego gets in there and they go, "That's not that heavy," and I'm like, "No, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying it like if you wanted to come out here and open and close, open and close, open and close, open and close, you're going to go, all right, I get the point. It's a little heavy. They'll never say, "Oh, it's heavy." That's how you want to test it, right? And if it doesn't feel right, that's when you want to put it back down. Find that sticker that says A1 that's hopefully on there. If it's not, find us. You can. It's really easy. Call. Say, I need help. I got to check this. And then we come out, and then that's when we can do our research and find out why.
Right.
Why is it that heavy?
The big why. Brother, we've gone over springs, how they balance doors, the difference between extension springs and torsion, the most common causes, and weird ones like pool chemicals as far as spring failure, warning signs, pretty big stories on the DIYers out there, and then just what homeowners can do to check their springs. Do you feel like there's anything encompassing with the message that maybe we forgot to talk about?
I would just say the garage door is the largest moving thing in your home, right? It's a wall, and we ask it to move out of the way so we can put our cars in there and we can let our families walk through there. And sometimes they get neglected because we take it for granted. It's one of those things that, it works. It works. It's like the garbage disposal. It's great till it stops working and you already stuffed a bunch of food in there and now you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's not the time you want an uh-oh. So those regular maintenance inspection is going to be the easiest way to make sure that your door stays as healthy as you want it to and doesn't get too scary.
Yeah. Brother, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I can't wait to have you back on. We actually have it scheduled already. We have to have you back on. But, dude, you're the best.
I'm down. Thanks for
All right, brother.